Testing, testing one, two.
I'd like to call to order the closed session for August 10th, 2022. Good evening, everyone. If we could do roll call, please.
Board Member Cole.
Present.
Board Member Cluth.
Present.
Board Member McCall.
Present.
Vice President Clerk Gardner is running a little late and he's absent. Absent at the moment. No. Now present. President Bove LaMonica.
Present.
All present.
Thank you so much. I'd like to open it up for public comment, for in-person public comment. Seeing none, I will close in-person public comment and move to virtual public comment.
There's no virtual public comment at the moment.
Thank you. I will close virtual public comment and move to closed session. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the open session for August 10th, 2022. Reporting out from closed session, there were two items for anticipated litigation off of case number 8343. There was a motion by Stephen, a second by Quentin, and a unanimous approval. For anticipated litigation number 9427, there was a motion by Stephen, a second by Quentin, and a unanimous approval by the board. And there's nothing else to report out from closed session. With that, I'd like to do call to order, please.
Board Member Cole,
Present.
Board Member Cluth,
Present.
Board Member McCall,
Present.
Vice President Clerk Gardner,
Present.
President Bove-LaMonica,
Present.
all present.
Thank you so much. If we can stand and do the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to announcements, please. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Maggie. I'd first like to introduce our new principal at Hermosa View and Vista, Miss Hillary Overbeck. Peter, we won't want to check these batteries again.
Testing. Board President Bove-LaMonica, members of the board, and Dr. Johnson, thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to be selected for this role. When I was hired as a kindergarten teacher in 2014, it wasn't long before I realized that Hermosa Beach is a really special place. As I moved to the 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade teams, I gained a wider perspective of all of the amazing education Hermosa students experience. I've worked alongside the staff at View, Vista, and at Valley, and I'm impressed by their dedication to students, the rigor that they bring to their classrooms, and the fun that they incorporate into their lessons. Serving as principal of Propel Summer Academy and assistant principal of Valley School has been such a joy, watching my first class of kindergartners grow into towering 8th graders. That said, I'm so excited to head back to the littles at View and Vista. I appreciate the high expectations and the goals that our small school district strives for, and I feel proud to be a part of that important work. Thank you for entrusting me with Hermosa's littlest learners and for building not one, but 2 brand new campuses. It's going to be a great year. Thank you very much.
Hillary, on behalf of the board, thank you for taking this position. Thank you for your commitment to the district. Thank you for all the time and effort that you've already put into making this year a success. And we're looking forward to all of your continued success. So thank you. Okay, and with that, no other announcements, right, Dr. Johnson? None. Okay. Moving on to public comment and communications. Public comments from the audience to the board. Members of the audience may address the board on any topic, regardless of whether it is listed on the agenda. However, the board may not discuss issues that are not listed on the agenda. Topics not on the agenda that are brought to the board's attention may be investigated by the administration and report made to the board, either publicly or privately at a future meeting. Comments from visitors shall not exceed 3 minutes per individual speaker unless waived by a majority of members of the board. I see we have audience members, which is great. Do we have any pink cards filled out for speaker cards?
Is anybody making a public comment tonight? You can bring your pink cards to me at this time.
No public comment? Okay, excellent. Great. Then with that, are there any virtual comments?
There is nobody making virtual comment tonight.
Okay, Great. We are closing public comment then and moving on to written communication. Jason. Or not Jason, written communication from anyone on the board? What do you have? I have lots of things, but I just need to pull it up.
Did you do the heavy lifting?
Okay. We have Gary Brown to the board on July 29th. I have an email from Carolyn Petty on elections to myself. I have an email around school safety from Allison Zimmerman and Sonia Parikh. Sorry if I said that wrong. And those are my emails. Anyone else have an additional one? Stephen? You're looking.
I have David Adler, as well as, sorry, bear with me. I have one other regarding e-bike safety. I'm blanking on his name. Steve Collins, sorry. That was okay.
Great. With that, closing written communication and moving to the superintendent update.
Thank you, Maggie. First up, our ribbon cutting, it will be on Saturday, September 10th at 10 a.m. Very, very excited. The unveiling of the completion of Measure S. And on that day too, we're also going to be providing tours over at Hermosa Vista for our community members that haven't had a chance to see that campus on the same day as well too. So really excited. RSVPs go out. It's an open invitation, so make it a party. Come on down. I hear we're going to have specially labeled water that says Measure S. It's for free, so dollars aren't being spent. Donation. Okay, next is we have the first day of school on September 6th. Wow, okay, that happened fast. Really excited about the first day of school. We're going to be out there. I'm going to be doing valet with Paula over at Hermosa Vista, the new home of our district folks, and very, very excited about that first day. Parents, get ready. Last night we were here, it's like deja vu. We had Mr. McCall here presenting about bike safety. Bike safety is something that we hold to be very, very important here in Hermosa Beach. Stephen and the board and district staff and our teachers have really doubled down on e-bike safety with the SMART campaign and the video with Hermosa Beach Police Department. Really proud of those efforts. As we learned, we're very much ahead of the curve because the state just passed legislation saying you should do that. So happy to be ahead of the state of California as usual. Finally, I'd like to give a big thank you to Hermosa Beach Educators Association. They're our collective bargaining unit representing our teachers and our classified. Just for all those that are aware, and I know the board is, that we've been negotiating with HBA for the last 2 years through COVID, through all these various changes. They've been such great partners. We were one of the first districts back. They've always been in partnership. They're a small unit, we're a small town, they get it. And you mean like, many of them are also members of our community. So really proud of that partnership. It was a great day for negotiations and we're looking forward to having another session coming up on Tuesday. And then finally, we have one last tweak to make on the district goals with the board's direction tonight. So board, in your packet, you should have the Hermosa Beach 22-23 goals. Now, I think that we got it just right in the sweet spot. But there's one last final thing to chat about with your permission. So at the very beginning, there's the 3 circles and we have excellence, inclusion, and community. We also kind of wrote it there a little differently for you as well too, all different types of functions. So the board last time talked about that alpha would be the way to go. You mean like as far as just like an organizational principle? What we will say is like the 3 circles are a distinguishing feature, and sometimes that is the first thing people see. And if we did do alpha, that would mean that it would be community, excellence, inclusion. Did I get that right? Okay, so I just want to make sure that the board is fully committed to alpha, or I mean, like, I know that there has been some push to have it be excellence, inclusion, community, and that would be maybe perhaps the one exception to alpha. So I'll turn it over to the board now and get out of the way quickly.
Responses from the board. First takes. Doug.
I think I'm the one that is repeatedly brought up. Alpha is my nature to want that type of organization. But as I've said before as well, I believe I will not die on that hill. So
I'd like to second Doug's alpha because I do think having excellence in the middle with the eyes and you're going to read it across, you'll just focus on excellence, which is like really what we should be all about first, and the other two things kind of. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
2 for alpha. Quentin. Marketing by committee.
I'm full for alpha, but and Venn diagram with best. No, I'm joking. But I am thinking. But I mean, if you really need to, do we have an asterisk at the very end? Some goals are multi-year outcomes. Where else? If anyone's really devil in the detail, do we need an asterisk that says goals are considered equally important and listed in alpha order? Like, no, don't need that.
no.
I think it's all good. I agree. Thank you.
You feel good?
That is that board direction? All right, board, we thank you for this process. It's been quite the treat. And we look forward to putting this on posters and banners.
As long as it doesn't have
Families,
dolphins, we're good.
you heard it here.
Okay,
That's all for my superintendent update. Thank you.
thank you. Next, I'd like to open a public hearing on E-01-2223. The hearings on the initial proposal from the Hermosa Beach Educators Association. Public comment is requested on the initial proposal from the HBEA. Seeing no public comment, I am closing the hearing on the initial proposal. Moving on to board reports, I have no updates.
Maggie, I think you need a motion to close the public hearing. Yeah, a motion and a vote.
So moved.
Second.
I heard Quentin. I heard Doug as my second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous motion. Hearing is closed. Moving on to board reports, I have no board president CSBA update for this meeting. Is there any other reports needed at this time? Okay, closing board reports and moving on to superintendent report and board discussion R-04-2223 view construction update. Will Mr. Gates be joining us?
They're coming in through Zoom.
Oh, Anthony's here. Great.
I'm just admitting the team right now. They'll be presenting via Zoom.
Bless you.
All right, gentlemen, we're ready when you are.
I thought I just saw Matt pop on there and then did he? Oh, there we go. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Matt, Nathan, team.
Good evening. Good evening. So, next slide. So we're here for the Hermosa View update. Next slide, please. We'll go through the construction update, the GMP review, construction progress. We've got a summary of delays we've been tracking through the course of the contract. Most of you know about all that. Next steps and then questions. Next slide. So starting out, Our final GMP as awarded by the board was $23,320,800. Of that, we had $1,192,033 in contingency. And we're projecting a balance, and this includes some unforeseen conditions that we've run into the last few days. So we're projecting a balance of about $59,439. Next slide. So just kind of letting you know, things are changing. We're in a very fluid situation right now as we're finishing up. Even as of today, this was presented to you last week. As of today, the main courtyard looks substantially different, as well as the front parking area and B in the kitchen. So we're moving along very well, and things are changing on a daily basis. Next slide. And again, from June to now, we've got the F1 and F2 buildings are basically ready for punch list. Building B, carpet is going in, flooring is going in, as well as finishing up finishes and programming for HVAC. Next slide. Again, building B again went from rough-in on the left to casework, and countertops are installed. Again, we're putting in, we're about 90% complete on fire alarm devices and getting those systems finalized. And then the corridor switchback ramp has been put in between F1 and F2. And even today, they were putting in exterior fence posts and starting the gate work for the exterior perimeter fencing and gates. Next slide. So early on in the project, we came across the asbestos coated piping that we tracked through about 10 days. And then later on that summer, we came across the stone columns and the CPT tests for the California geological requirements, and that was about a 7-day. We pivoted on both and continued to move forward with work. As of right now, as we're finishing up the site work, the sewer main tie-in to Prospect was a substantial unforeseen that the city worked with us very well and gave us some opportunities and options to again pivot to keep the work moving instead of having to go through and potentially resubmit drawings for permitting. The elevator continues to be a challenge. We've gone through COVID, we've gone through supply chain issues, manufacturing shutdowns, and elevators continue to be a headache for all of my projects, to be honest with you. We did receive word today that the equipment has been shipped and received at the hub for Schindler. So we'll be revising our schedules and what our opportunities are to get their equipment and material and manpower out there to start the elevator install. Next slide, please. So next steps, we're down to the finish line. The kitchen and NPR, we're completing the exterior work, final cleaning and testing. Our final health inspection is the 16th. We've already gone through a preliminary inspection, and they gave us a punch list. So we're working through that and getting that taken care of. But we should have a final sign off on the 16th. CD&E, we're testing the equipment and firing off the equipment and finishing up the gutters and the install. And then the kinder is basically punch list and testing programming of the HVAC equipment. Next slide. Building B. So casework continues. I've given you kind of an update on the elevator equipment. Once the equipment is installed and they go through their punch list, they will schedule a state inspection. Typically, the state inspection is 3 weeks out from the appointment date. So if they call on the 30th, it's probably going to be about the 17th. We can do potentially, if we can get a couple double shifts in there and get the equipment up and running, and they do their preliminary test early, we could call for an inspection a little earlier. But there is a 3-week lag time between appointment and inspection. Complete the framing infill and exterior finishes at the elevator openings. Tack boards, final cleaning, punch list, and again, testing of the equipment and the commissioning of all of the systems. Next slide. The site work is the challenge. We've been fighting a concrete shortage for the last 6 months. The Los Angeles and Orange County areas seem to be particularly hard hit compared to the other counties in Southern California. It takes weeks to get pour dates, and if you miss that pour date, that becomes a significant issue, as well as they are limiting the amount of concrete you can order at a time. So there's a lot of different strategies we're working on. One of the things are we have released handrails and guardrails early. So we will be ready to core and pour into the flat work and the ramps and walls as they become available. We'll have the materials there. Shade structure fabric, we really can't install that until the hardscape is done. We have started the rubber surfacing at the playground today. We also received the tensioning piece that was missing from the other structure, and we've poured that in. So we'll continue to move that rubber surfacing through the rest of the play area. Asphalt is key. If we can get the curbs in the parking areas, we can bring our asphalt subcontractor in and knock out all of that. But we need to get the curbs in. So we are working hand in hand with our concrete subcontractor. He actually has a tiered sub that specializes in curbs, and we're trying to get that entity out to help jumpstart getting that front entry taken care of. And I don't know if you noticed this, but the back field is now full of grass and green. It's looking really great. So we're going to continue to work on our irrigation and planting as we work our way out of the campus. Next slide. And with that, any questions?
Matt and team, thank you so much for the presentation. I was on campus today to do a quick walkthrough with Nancy, and it was just a delight to see everybody so hard at work and the campus getting ready for September 6th. With that, board, I know we need to talk about schedules and other things. Questions, comments? Stephen?
Matt, team, I'll just echo that as the board lead on the construction and sitting in on things weekly on updates. Just thank you. Huge thanks to the whole team. Nathan, it's wonderful to have you out of your fire engine garage and have the beauty of view in the background. Okay, no, but thanks to the whole team. We've got a couple of key members here in the audience as well, so special thanks. The great thing is that the end is in sight. So with that, thanks also to our community members who, whether it's sort of Prospect Avenue or our neighbours nearby. I just want to say thank you to everyone. The end is in sight, and it's absolutely going to be brilliant having our ribbon cutting on the 10th celebration, and that is open to all public members, correct? Right. Matt, I appreciate also you talking through the challenges. Those are substantial. And I think that anyone who drives down PCH also sees how much concrete has gone into Sketchers project development. Probably appreciates there's a lot of concrete being used right now. For things like elevator with ADA, whatever else, none of that is what I'm just going to sort of mission critical for getting the schools open and access, because we have other ADA access, I believe. So I just sort of confirming that nothing is mission critical in your eye as to getting the school complete and absolute ready for the sick.
We seem to be on track with all of our systems, which fire life safety is key to allowing staff, students, and public into the buildings. We're on track for that. The concrete continues to be a big challenge because that is a lot of the ADA work. Elevator can linger a little bit, but we don't want it to. It becomes a challenge getting in there after hours and finishing that work up. But concrete is going to be a day-to-day. You will see changes on that site every day as they're putting in form work, pouring concrete, moving it, backfilling against the concrete, and then moving on and forming some more. So that is that, and the asphalt, highly fluid areas. And we're pushing hard. The team is pushing very hard. Nancy's helping us coordinating, and Nathan is helping with any questions, as Nathan Herrera, with any questions that come up as we're pushing to the finish line.
Great. I mean, I walk past there every day. I live close by, and it is substantial, the amount of earthwork and stuff that's happening right now in order for those things to be readied. And like you say, I'm noticing differences, but it's great. When do our teachers get access in order to move in, and how is that just the move in order to have our teachers ready for back to school? Do we have confirmed date for them, or is that part of the fluid nature of things?
I've worked on a lot of schools, and teachers always want to get in early. Our staff, along with Nancy, is working with Jason Johnson to coordinate and ensure we can provide safe, efficient access to their classroom areas. Again, even from noon today to 3 o'clock this afternoon, that front parking lot changed significantly as we're grading that out. It is going to be a day-to-day more. It's going to change and be revised and moved around different areas as we get spaces available. We're going to put concrete and asphalt down. But our team's going to work very close with Jason to ensure that as soon as we can provide safe and efficient access, we're going to give it to them.
Do we have a provisional date, or are we still waiting as things are quite fluid with the access to concrete, etc.?
You're going to see some big changes in the next week or so.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'll be able to give you. Excuse me.
I can jump in for a second.
Okay.
So we're working with the local team to have a timeline on Friday of this week, and then we're going to take a look at that and work on at the beginning of next week, and hopefully before the end of next week we're going to will be multi-tiered dates, because it's going to also depend on the level of access, the hours of access, and also the location of access, because like the site and its access is just not created equally. So we'll hopefully we'll have something like that we can share with the board for the board update by the end of next week.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll move it down the line, maybe come back. Thanks.
Who's next? Go ahead, Jen.
So Matt, hi, Matt.
Hello.
How are you doing? Again, I echo all the thank yous. It is looking amazing. I
I'm
love
doing
getting
well.
te-
It's another crazy summer.
I love getting texts from people in the neighborhood saying how beautiful it is. So it's a real pleasure to see that. My only question again is a schedule question. And I know you've said we're planning on being in there on the 6th, but for some reason, if we have to have a plan B, when will you be able to identify if we have to have a plan B?
I would think by the end of next week,
Okay.
we'll be able to finalize phases and if there is a plan B.
We don't want there to be a plan B, Matt.
Correct. I second that.
Okay, I'm holding you to it, Matt. I know you can do it.
Did you have a follow-up? This is a question maybe for Jason in addition to Matt. So given that we have the school to finish, teachers to move in, approvals from building folks, what does then that also look like from approvals from city services with fire department checks and all of the other safety checks that happen prior to the start of school?
Well, I know our IOR, Brian is coordinating all of the fire life safety inspections and checks. And more than likely during the course of the work, he was contacting the fire marshal for fire line installs, flood tests, things like that, making sure that the pipes were clear. So we should be on track for all that. With the health department sign off, that the kitchen area should be fine. The fire alarm still has some work to do, and we're waiting for a few final connections and some cabling to finish that off. So we're sitting pretty good in terms of those systems.
Okay. Any last questions for Matt? Jason, when's the next time we'll be getting board updates then on schedules?
Yes, and September 10th, we'll be celebrating the opening of school.
I mean, is this Matt's last presentation to the board on this then?
I'm sure we'll be able to drag Matt back here at some point. If things go south next week, then we'll probably be calling a special.
If I need to come up there and pour some concrete, I'll do it.
Okay, Matt. Well then,
Thank you, Matt.
Stephen and I will see you at our regularly scheduled call. Thank you so much for the board update.
Right.
Moving
Thank you.
on. Anything else from the team in the back? Anthony, I know you're here. Nancy, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Okay, moving on to R-05-2223 Beach Cities Health District Report.
Hello, everyone. Allie Stewart, the Chief Partnership Development Officer for Beach Cities Health District. And it's so wonderful to be back in this room with you all tonight. Hey, how you doing?
Clicker for you.
All right, very good. I can breeze right through this. So I also wanted to introduce my colleague, Emery Chen, who's here with me tonight. He is the new Director of Youth Services. So he'll be working closely with your site principals and our youth services team to make sure all of our programs and services are back up and running for the school year. As it relates to the construction, we're so excited to get the View Garden up and running again. So that will be part of the plan for the fall, so we can make sure we're delivering those Live Well Kids lessons. We're really excited to bring back food tastings in those lessons so we can resume some of our normal programming. So I'm going to give a brief overview of some of the ways we partnered over the past couple of years. I think a year ago, we were talking about gearing up for another wave of vaccine clinics. It's hard to believe it's been less than a year since we were fully involved in that. And so I want to thank all of you for your leadership in that process. We couldn't have done all of this without the leadership of the board, Dr. Johnson and the team for allowing us to host some of those sessions on your school campuses. So it really was a community effort. And I think from the very beginning, we worked closely to make sure we were doing as much as we could to keep students and families safe. So briefly, here's a look at some of the health priorities at the health district. So within your packet, you'll see our community health report. As a health district, we go through a 3-year planning process to really assess the greatest health needs of the community. And from there, we work with partners like our school districts to really develop programs and services that are going to meet the health needs. And for you all, that includes students, families, and the staff at your school site. So across our 4 health priority areas, physical and brain health continues to be a priority for us through our nutrition and garden programs. In the space of mental health, really growing the work of our Beach Cities Partnership for Youth Coalition, which Emory has been spearheading for the past 2 years to make sure we're coming together as a community to address mental health and substance use prevention. Of late, that's meant working alongside the school district and city partners around the issue of cannabis and the access to really make sure we're doing as much as we can to prevent youth access to substances, and that includes cannabis. That's part of our efforts that the school district partnered with us on to get a federal grant to really make sure we were identifying the substances that young people in our community were using and reducing access to those. When we look at health and safety, before that meant a lot of bike safety education, safe routes to school. We'll be bringing back a walk and roll day this school year, so we look forward to having you all out there to walk to school or ride to school. And we know of late, the topic of e-bikes has been an issue. So glad to see that you all are partnering with young people to get the message out about that and how we can increase safety on that topic. And again, I know on the agenda tonight is the Juvenile Diversion Project. That's another program that we've been able to work with Ms. Gluck to bring to Hermosa Beach. And that really is an opportunity that we see as prevention and early intervention, because we know if a young person has an encounter with the juvenile justice system, it can send them on a path that's really going to have impacts on them later in life. And so that really is an opportunity to intervene early. And a lot of those cases end up being a referral, maybe something related to substance use or mental health. So all of these programs would not be possible without the partnership of the school district. So it's dangerous when I call Dr. Johnson and say, I have an idea about this. And I want to say he is always enthusiastic, because he really is a true believer in the health and well-being of everyone in Hermosa Beach. So included in your packet as well, and for those online, you can see this on our website, bchd.org/impact. This is a summary of all the school health programs that we do in Hermosa Beach, as well in our neighboring school districts. It talks about some of the funding that we partner with you all on to bring programs like the Principals Fund, which allows individual site principals to bring health programs to their school sites, as well as the Palos Verdes School Gardens, which is delivered for those older students after they graduate out of the Live Well Kids program. So COVID-19 response, I'm looking forward to the day when we can come give a presentation and don't have to talk about this as much. And I know as we gear up for the start of the school year, we're also continuing to keep an eye on everything that we can do as a public health agency to keep our community safe. So we want to continue to be a resource for you in this area. Our school wellbeing line that we launched during COVID will continue to provide COVID-19 public health information, as well as other resources in the community. So another area that we were able to partner on this past year was around COVID testing. That just ended at the end of July. And I think that's another area too. We had to work together as a community to come up with a solution. And then now that the county has built more infrastructure around that, we've been able to absorb into the larger efforts around the county. So again, that was an area where when resources were scarce, it really did take a lot of coordination and collaboration to make sure that those services were provided to school families. And I would just say one note on the testing, we have heard some feedback about billing as it relates to COVID testing that was done over the course of the last 6 months. So if you get any of those calls from your school community, please do continue to send them our way. We want to make sure that that's not an issue. Those were intended to be done free of charge. I know there were a couple different testing options happening when we look back at January, when we were really in the height of the surge. And so those were intended to be free of charge, no matter what testing vendor was providing that. So if you do get those inquiries from your school families, do please have them contact us and we can work with them to make sure that gets resolved. All right, I mentioned our school wellbeing line, so this will continue into the school year, and we're excited about this. This was really developed to be a sister line to our information referral that we do at Beach Cities Health District. So we provide information referral, safety net support for all ages in the Beach Cities. But with the demand of COVID, we really thought that it would be a better fit to have a dedicated line for school families and staff to be able to call. So this will continue, and eventually it'll ring into a new project that we're really excited about, which is All Cove Beach Cities, that I'll get to in just a moment. I want to thank the school district for their ongoing partnership to support the South Bay Families Connected Speaker Series. We were able to host a great event with Dr. Don Grant, and that content continues to be available on the South Bay Families Connected website. And I think that really gave us an opportunity to evolve that programming to make it more available to families. And we're looking at our parent engagement programming for the upcoming year, since that will also be a service that we're able to offer through All Cove Beach Cities. Another thing to mention, the ongoing parent chat. That's a weekly parent support group for all ages, and that's administered by South Bay Families Connected and Torrance Memorial's Thelma McMillan Center. So that continues to be a resource for families if they just want to connect with other parents, talk through scenarios that they might be encountering with their child, and have the support of a community around them. And that's now available virtually. So I mentioned our Beach Cities Partnership for Youth Coalition. So we had the chance to bring this group together, and this really is spearheaded by young leaders. So over the years, we've had anywhere between 50 and 80 young people, grades 8 through 12, that are guiding us in our health priority areas to make sure we're best serving the needs of young people in our community. It started to really focus on substance use prevention, and we've really expanded to provide mental health services for young people in the community. And here you'll see some of our Youth Advisory Council members. They too had to adapt to virtual programming, but now they're getting out in the community more. So we want to thank Hermosa Beach 8th graders for participating in that. You'll be proud to know there are many alumni that have now graduated on to Miracosta or Redondo Union, and they're continuing their involvement. So we're really thrilled to have their ongoing participation as youth leaders in the community. When we look ahead to what's upcoming in the fall for Beach Cities Health District, we're really excited to bring All Cove Beach Cities to our campus in Redondo Beach. This will be temporarily located on the 4th floor of our existing Beach Cities Health District building, with eventual plans for it to go into our future Healthy Living campus and the revitalization of the entire property up on Prospect. So the temporary location, we're hoping we can relate to construction delays. So we're hoping to get that going this fall and look forward to welcoming young people in Hermosa Beach to be able to access programs and services. So to give just a quick rundown of what All Cove Beach Cities will bring to the community, it will include physical health services, mental health services, substance use prevention, supported education and employment, and other things like life skills and wellness services. And this will be available to young people ages 12 to 25 in the beach cities and beyond. So this is an opportunity through some state funding to make these services available to the South Bay. So we look forward to continuing to partner with the school district to make sure it's supplementing the great work that you're already doing in schools, and then providing an opportunity to also fill some of those gaps after school, on weekends, in the summer, that there's no gap in services. If a young person is needing these supports in school, that they can also get them outside of school hours. So this too is spearheaded by youth advisors. So it's been really great to have their feedback as we bring All Cove to the beach cities. They've been able to do everything from interview our clinical partners to interview staff that we're hiring for the space, choose furniture. And so they really have been great contributors to bring All Cove to life coming this fall. And so we hope that this location will be the second to open in the state of California. And All Cove is intended to be this one-stop shop that any young person, regardless of their ability to pay, can come in the door and get the services that they need. And because it's a youth-friendly space, we're hoping to destigmatize some of the concerns that young people might typically face when they're accessing mental health services. It's also a space for young people to just be. We know it's overwhelming. There's a lot going on, not just in the past 2 years. So this is also a safe space that they could come do homework, maybe access some of these wellness services, and then eventually, if they would like to talk to someone or have something going on that they want to talk to an expert about, that will be available in-house. So we're working right now to bring on our clinical partners as we open the doors later in the fall. All right, and I covered all of this, so I'm going to breeze right past here and just jump ahead to what's next here. So we're opening the doors to this dedicated youth wellness center this fall in Redondo Beach. We will resume walk and roll to school day on October 12th. We're recruiting for the Youth Advisory Council. So for all those Hermosa families who have 8th graders, we're currently recruiting and would love to have great representation from Hermosa on that group of young leaders. So we've been working with your schools to get the word out, but we know it can be challenging over the summer months since people are hopefully still enjoying a little bit of summer break. And then looking ahead to Red Ribbon Week, again, this is going to be right before some decisions in our local cities. And we've been working with all 3 of our cities in the beach cities as we talk about cannabis and the impacts on youth health. And so that will be ongoing through the fall. And we're planning a few education events to make sure we're bringing the latest information on the health impacts for youth as it relates to cannabis. And then again, we just wanted to thank you all for your support for all things related to health and wellness. Hermosa is always a champion, and you really stepped up to the plate over the past 2 years to be our partners in health. And it really starts with great leadership. And we see that every day when we encounter staff and students on your campuses. So that's all of the update that I have for you today. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those too.
Allie, first of all, congratulations on your new title. You snuck that one in there.
Yeah.
And so I guess that means Emery will be taking your place.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're gonna continue. So partnership development, there's no partner more important than our school district partners. So I'm not going away entirely. So
Okay.
you're not getting rid of me.
Well, Emery, you've seen what we expect.
Yeah.
This is the standard of service we expect.
Yeah.
Allie, thank you so much for your continued partnership. It was great to actually meet our 8th grade ambassadors who were, I guess, rising 9th graders over the summer at Maricosta when we closed out the year with the Youth Ambassador Board. So thank you again for that partnership and your support. I want to open it up to the board for questions. I know I have one off of Alcove if no one else does.
Thank you, Allie. We are so, it's always like you're like a shining light when you come in and you bring all this information. So just a clarifying question for Alcove, is it not open yet?
It's not open yet.
And it will open even if you have construction delays? Is
Yeah,
that-
so we just actually, we're starting on Monday. So it's really a remodel. It's not full construction. So it's in the temporary location. So it's only expected to take about 6 weeks. So we are still hoping to be on track to open late September, early October. And we're going to have a big community celebration. So we'll make sure all of you are invited and have a chance to come over and tour the space.
Great. If you need someone to kind of wrangle the schedule, you let us know.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Matt's not on. In terms of the destigmatization around mental health services, on one of the last advisory calls, we had talked about how we introduce this to students. Is there a plan? Has a plan been developed of how we get 12-year-olds and up into this space or let them know about it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was actually Dr. Johnson that had the great idea to do a series of field trips in the fall once we're open to get young people over there to just see what it is. And I know we're actually relying on our youth advisors to tell us the best places and a lot of peer-to-peer efforts. So this week, actually at the World Peace Festival down the street in Hermosa, we're going to have an Alcove booth talking to young people since the focus of that event is youth mental health. And so in addition to providing these services in the Alcove space, there's a lot of community outreach. The other location that's open in Palo Alto, they did 100 community outreach events a year. So some of that is actually taking the services onto school sites or into the community. I think in Hermosa, where there are a lot of young people, maybe in that transitional age youth category of 18 to 25 who might be employed in Hermosa Beach, working with the business community to make sure we're doing outreach there as well. So, and any advice that you have to get the word out, we really want to make sure that this feels accessible and open to all, and that we can reduce the barriers that typically come with accessing these services.
Excellent. Thank you. Great. Appreciate your report. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
On the back of bikes, no helmets. Okay, moving on to R-06-2223, the school safety update. Dr. Johnson.
Take your time. See if that works. No. Can you slide forward? Or business. All right. Hello, board team. First off, I'd like to start by thanking the members of the community for being here tonight. We appreciate it. I definitely can tell you that there are funner things than a board meeting with respect to my bosses. So I appreciate that you're all here this evening, and I understand the seriousness of the issue. So just thank you for your time for being here tonight. Board, you have to be here, so thank you as well, though, nevertheless. I'd like to take an opportunity tonight to talk about school safety in light of tragic events happening in Uvalde, and unfortunately, just the state of the world that we've been in for quite some time. I think it's always a great practice in order to take a look at safety. You know, when I arrived at Hermosa Beach, there was already a pretty long history here of a prioritization of safety, which I'll talk about. But I do believe in, and especially in coming from Redondo, where safety is a huge priority, it is something that is a constant work. There's really no necessarily getting it right, and you put it in a box. It really is never ending, and it's part of your processes always, and there's always room for improvement, much like education in general. Just the stakes are much higher when it comes to this subject because it is like the penultimate subject. So tonight we're going to provide a brief update, and here is a summary of those updates. To note that on an annual basis, as required by law, Hermosa Beach City School District updates and reviews its safety plan at each school site. This is a pivotal year for us because this is the first year of the 3-site plan, and we've had substantial changes to Hermosa View. So many of these plans are being reevaluated and redone at Hermosa View, and then we're taking another introspection into Hermosa Valley where there's been less change, but I'll also discuss a little bit about Measure S and the history there over the last decade. One thing I'm pleased to say, Chief LeBaron and I, we started around the same time we came in, and he was proactive about reaching out to me. And the first subject on our minds, besides COVID, was our preparedness. And we began work about 2 years ago while navigating COVID about what was the relationship between Hermosa and the Hermosa Beach School District and the Hermosa Beach Police Department, and how would we respond to emergency scenarios, and what role would HBPD play on Hermosa campuses. We also have had a long-standing partnership with our Joint Power Authority, ASCIP. They are the gold standard of Joint Power Authority and work with many, and if not most, of small school districts in California. And they are working with us currently, conducting a comprehensive review. I'll talk more about what that means later in the presentation. Finally, like many subjects in past years, we have really been predominated with safety concerns, only it has taken the shape of COVID over the last 2 years. So this will be one of many future updates in order to continue to reassess in light of just the changing world that we're in. This is where we're at. We have to adapt. Hermosa, I think, has had an ability to adapt relatively quickly with the quickly changing circumstances of our world. And this is just another step. And then finally, the process of safety in school in general is fluid. It's a give and take, and it's also, I would say, a tentative process with the community, as well as the board, and as well as our stakeholders, including ASCIP and HBPD, Hermosa Beach Educators Association. So we'll continue to engage with all these community members and continue to take steps as we move forward this year. So as I mentioned before, just when it comes to compliance, schools have to complete a comprehensive safety plan every year. And this plan is actually approved by the local community at the site level, and then later approved by the board. This is the school site council, and that comprehensive safety plan for a site is approved in March. The reason that it's approved in March is because the state puts out its new template each year about what are the new or latest requirements for a safety plan. However, I will tell you that the plan that is approved in March, is the plan that is enacted upon and continue to be worked on, during the course of the following year as well too. So schools typically have two substantial updates to their plans. One is at that March comprehensive review, and the other is for the start of the school year, just to make sure that they're with staffing changes and different procedures that, like, for example, a new school, that we have the latest updates for our comprehensive safety plan, and that information is in the hands of staff so that they can respond. The last year, we introduced a new safety procedure called Run, Hide, Distract. This was a scenario for the event of an armed intruder. It is recommended by many different national law enforcement agencies. I first learned about it in my work in RBUSD when it was implemented there. It was one of the first in the South Bay. And in the full return to school last year, we brought it on board, had a parent information meeting, trained our staff, worked with HBPD, and then completed a drill at all levels last year. The drill does look different depending on the grade level. And then we have, in the last 2 years, as I mentioned, worked closely with our local HBPD in order to assess safety on our campus. Credit to Chief Paul LeBaron. He's very proactive. He believes in a relationship with our small school district, and we continue to assess those safety procedures. So the district over the last decade, thank you, Measure S, has invested substantially in reformatting and refitting our campuses, old and new, in order to be safe for what we would say is post Sandy Hook. So Sandy Hook, unfortunately, was for many school districts the impetus to do substantial changes to their procedures and to their facilities. One of those facility changes is what we call the 1-2-3 lock latch. This was implemented and installed during Measure S. It is a very simple device, but it is a life-saving device. Prior, if a teacher wanted to lock their door or keep their door unlocked for the constant traffic that goes through it for kids, they would have to completely unlock the door, and most doors have the safety emergency. So they would have to pop it open, lock it open. And in the event where they would need to lock that door quickly, that would be a very arduous and time-consuming process. So the 1-2-3 latch was introduced and is now pretty prevalent in most schools, where the door itself, the mechanism is locked at all times. That mechanism there keeps the door ajar, and then the teacher simply needs to lift and pull, and the door can be locked. I'll be honest with you, when it was first explained to me, just as I did now, I didn't understand how it worked. You kind of have to see it to really know how it works, but it's very simple in nature and is a life-saving device. Measure S was also responsible for having perimeter fencing on all campuses, old and new. Believe it or not, Hermosa Valley used to be an open campus that you could just walk on. That is the traditional way of things. But there was reconstruction done in relatively recently in order to comply with what they would say is post Sandy Hook construction for facilities. Thank you to the board, and thank you to the Hermosa Beach community for passing Measure S to put in those safeties. Including was the office redesign at Hermosa Valley, and then also the design of Hermosa Vista and Hermosa View to allow for a single point main entry and through the front office. This prior year, we've installed security cameras. This is not necessarily for intruders, but it was something that our campus lacked. So the board has approved over the course of the last year installing security cameras in main thoroughfare areas and across campuses, including all entry points. We have our Raptor background check system that does background checks for all campus visitors. And then we've worked hard to have push gates at strategic exit locations in cooperation with evaluation from ASCIP and HBPD. where if someone was trying to exit the campus, such as in a scenario where run, hide, distract was in effect, that any person could leave the campus without having a key. And we continue to evaluate that as well too, particularly at Hermosa Valley on the backside of campus, where we plan to make some changes with the locks that are utilized. Slide. So this is a rundown of some of our procedures that are active safety procedures and some that are coming in Hermosa Beach. I'm a big believer in safety protocols and procedures. They're important. Some we introduced as early as last year. For example, the threat assessment protocol was introduced last year. It is something also that was brought from Redondo Beach. A threat assessment is an assessment that can be done with a student performed by a mental health personnel, anywhere between a counselor or school psychologist, an administrator if necessary, in order to see if a student poses a threat to the campus. It is a normed procedure and very comprehensive. Also, we have the suicide risk assessment protocol, very common throughout schools, also required by law to ensure that school staff and personnel have the ability to assess whether or not a student is at risk to themselves or others. We have distributed and introduced a radio preparedness protocol that has to be constantly practiced, that we perform radio checks, or in the event of an emergency, that there is always someone by a radio that has the ability to respond. I mentioned already the run, hide, distract procedure. We recently, Hermosa Beach took the lead with working with Beach City's Health District to have a joint crisis response with Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach Unified School District. We're a small school district, so we recognize that our resources are more limited. So our sister brother school districts have graciously agreed that they would, upon superintendent request, immediately send support in the event of an emergency, and Beach City's Health District has agreed to do the same. We also have this year, you can see there, look at those nice badge system. One thing that I noticed in coming here, Hermosa Beach, we're a little laid back here in the beach cities, but we didn't have a comprehensive badge system, which is prevalent on most campuses. So now, to be on a Hermosa Beach campus as a staff member or as a substitute, you must be wearing a badge, or if you're a visitor, your rapid check-in badge system. Slide. The greatest research says, and I'm a believer, and these are the research that I'll talk about, the databases and the foundations that we adhere to, but your greatest protection for the event of a armed intruder, is the programs that you have on campus. And I'm a big believer in that. With my background in special education, and on the social emotional side. And I, thank this board, because one of the first actions this board took when I came to superintendent was to improve a 1.5 FTE increase in counselors. It's the equivalent of 1.5 counselor people. And that's the belief that, social emotional wellness is a top priority. The board approved that, if you remember, during some tough financial times. So thank you for the board of taking that action. I think that showed great foresight. We continue to put those resources to work. I will explain some of the programs that we have had in 21-22. Not all these have started in 21-22, but things such as our bullying prevention lessons, which are done by our counselors. School-wide, we had our relationship mapping and my safety net activities that were done at Hermosa View and at Hermosa Valley. To explain, my safety net is where a student outlines, all of their connections on campus and off, and discusses if in the event that they were in crisis, what is their safety net for them. We use that tool in order to identify students that may need more support. And our counselors work with those students in order to find that support, working with their families. We've also started programs to just start the day with hello. This is based off the Sandy Hook Promise. Not been to the Sandy Hook Promises website. I highly encourage it. It is also done after the Sandy Hook tragedy, where it introduced programs that, again, are research-based in order to keep campuses more safe by improving the school climate of campus, as well as a program that we plan to introduce in 22-23, the Sandy Hook Say Something. Say Something educates students that whether or not they feel a student is joking or sarcastic, or they hear something that they believe is unsafe, I mean, like, it teaches a culture of erring on the side of wanting to take care of that person. You know, there are flippant comments made all the time on school campuses, but it's important that we, you know, take people seriously. I mean, with the ethic of care, it's not telling on somebody. It really is just making sure that we have care for all. This year, we also plan to introduce Watchdogs. This is a nationally recognized program where dads volunteer to be on campus for one full day. It's a straight numbers game that in education, particularly at the elementary levels, which this is the K-8 elementary district, there is a predominance of female employees and less so male. And so there is a lack of male role models on campus. Watchdogs is a joint effort with the school and the community to get more dads and more male figures on campus in order to balance that. And it also provides a safety net for students, I mean, like, and for the campus. And it's a really fun day. I have done Watchdogs in my time in Redondo. It's a hugely popular program. I guarantee you will be a huge hit. And there you see, we also are going to be introducing positive behavior intervention system. This is Jessica Bledsoe's baby, and working with the Valley staff to really try to create a culture of positivity on campus, where we're reinforcing, I mean, like, positive social behaviors with rewards, tangible and praise. But it's school-wide, and that's, again, to create a culture, I mean, like, among Hermosa that is positive, that is trusting, and then also is safe. Slide. So here, one back. Sorry, Stephen. I like to call slide. You have a clicker. So as I mentioned with our counseling programs, there you see in 21-22 a breakdown of various programs that many of which we introduced last year. Friendship Club, which is a social friendship club between general education students and students with special needs. Won the award for best friendship club in the South Bay, which I've been doing friendship club for a long time. I never won that award, so kudos to them. And the another project that we're really proud of that we introduced this year was our Juvenile Diversion project and our male mentorship group. The Juvenile Diversion project is done in conjunction with Beach Cities Health District, where a mentor from the justice system, Joan Jenkins, you'll love her if you know her. She works with students who are right on the cusp of having infractions that run the risk of legal involvement. And we do have some students, I mean, like, that have tough backgrounds, I mean, like, and have high needs. And rather than putting those students on a road towards juvenile justice, the Juvenile Diversion Project, establishes a mentorship with Ms. Jenkins, and then working in partnership with the school to provide opportunities such as weekend projects, going to visit or work with people that have a background in social work, or people that have had life experiences that would help that student learn from. And then our male mentorship program group is a group of students that we have identified that could use just an extra connection. This comes out of our work with relationship mapping. And we identified, through recommendation from the Wellness Council, a local coach, Michael, who's awesome. He's a sports coach in our community, and he hosts a group of boys after school, doing projects together, having a tight social network with each other, sometimes playing sports, sometimes just going on trips, sometimes having lunch. But it's just a network for them and another connection. Michael's a really inspiring guy. So we're really trying to identify like spaces for all different types of students Whether you're a student that's a high academic achiever, or you're a student who's really into sports, or you're a student who may not have those social connections, and trying to create various spaces. And I credit our counselors and our administration and their backgrounds that are very much invested in identifying those students and providing that support. In 22-23, here are some programs that we plan to introduce. You've already heard about Youth Alcove Wellness Center. We plan to be proactive in engaging our students with that resource. We also are working on a wellness room at Hermosa Valley. This is actually more of a high school thing, where wellness rooms is a room that a counselor will be part of, where students could use to either cool down or find a safe space, somewhere they can go to talk with somebody. So it's going to be a little feng shui in there. We're going to get some nice mood lighting. And then at Hermosa Vista View, we're going to be creating calming stations where students will have self-regulation activities that if they have anxiety or they're upset, teachers are trained in their classrooms to have a space where that they can recenter or refocus themselves. We're really excited. I know this board, has invested heavily in our counseling program. Thank you, Hermosa Beach Education Foundation, for their support as well too. We want to take it to the next level and having a licensed medical family therapist. Just for a little background, counselors are certificated to provide academic counseling. Now, as you can see, they do quite a lot more than just academic counseling. But really their role is to support students, and their ability to navigate school. That could be that a student has anxiety at school and they're helping that student to navigate their anxiety at school. But they're not licensed therapists. We believe in a community schools approach, though we are not actually eligible to be a community school because of our socioeconomic status. So what we're doing, we've written a grant with LA County, LACO, and we're also working with South Bay Children's Family Center on a grant as well to attain a LMFT. This is someone that would work part-time on Hermosa Valley campus and provide family therapist counseling for students that have more intensive needs, working with that student and their family for more critical counseling, but having that available in the school space, which is, I believe, much more effective in order to support students and their families in the busy days of life. And sometimes it's very difficult to secure a counselor. Slide. Oh, sorry. I called slide and hit the button. Man, all right. Dangerous. Okay, so we've received questions about community participation, and so I do want to direct the community to a lot of different avenues where meaningful participation can take place. So the Wellness Council has been in place for the last 3 years, and the Wellness Council is participation of parents, staff, and community stakeholders such as Beach Cities Health District. This is a fantastic group. A lot of the programs that I just saw to you were recommendations from the community, from the Wellness Council, that we just put into action. The applications for that council will be coming next week. Which leads me to the Equity and Inclusion Committee, which a lot of the initiatives you see here in social emotional wellness are from our Equity and Inclusion Action Plan. That committee applications are currently open, and I strongly encourage people to apply. We have some great people that have applied. That's a great committee, also made up of parents, staff, and stakeholders, including students. We have our Local Control Accountability Plan Committee. So everything costs money. And so how these dollars are spent are approved by the LCAP committee through our large comprehensive plan. It also collects feedback from the community, and those parents serve as representatives there. So I strongly encourage you, especially if you have a financial background or interest in broader programs, to participate there. The School Site Council, those applications will come out when school opens. That is a multi-year term position on school site councils. One of their functions is reviewing and approving site safety plans So if you are interested in that type of work, I would definitely encourage participation on school site council. They also are another body that approves and recommends local school site plans as well, not district wide, but at the site itself. The parent teacher organization is one of our best partners. They always need volunteers. I really believe that campuses and programs are made better and safer by PTO's involvement and all the richness they bring, connecting the community with each other. All the things I just named, as I mentioned, cost money. So the HBEF, is critical to making these programs go. I can assure you that state funding does not provide for all the things that we do that was just named. And being part of HBF, those people truly are making a difference to make our campuses better places for kids. I attend at times the Community Police Advisory Board. I will be there, I think it's next week, I'll be there, where the police has community meetings where they engage and talk about safety on campus and in relation to school. And then I always recommend South Bay Families Connected. South Bay Families Connected is a network with beach cities where parents are providing resources to other parents. And as mentioned, Beach Cities Health District, there's speaking engagements. Cannot recommend them enough. I personally, as a parent, have gotten great advice from South Bay Families Connected. Here's another list of all of our partnerships, some of which I won't go through because I've already mentioned. Thelma McMillan is a drug rehabilitation center that we've partnered with to provide parent ed, and especially to work with some of our families at Hermosa Valley. I'll highlight the Sandy Hook Promise is a resource that the district has used for quite a while, along with others, and provides great research-based practices to keep your campuses safe. If you're looking for a standard, the National Center for School Safety has been at this work for a very long time. And I strongly encourage for those that are looking for what is the best campus practices that keep campuses safe. This is the resource that we utilize. Unfortunately, armed intruders on school campuses have been going on for a long time, well before Columbine. And there is, again, unfortunately, a wealth of research about best practices that keep campuses safe with the just amount of time that this has been going on. What is next? So we are working with HBPD this summer as we continue our partnership with them and working on a crisis response. So HBPD had the greatest or largest hiring of officers it's had in its history. Great job. And so we want to make sure that those officers are familiar with our campuses. Hermosa Valley is a unique campus if you've ever had the pleasure. And so making sure that our police department and our staff are well aware of that campus and its outlook. We have our officers tour and review the campus in the past, but now we want to make sure that ground level officers that would be in responding are part of that, and also communicating with our staff as well. And that visit is next week, I believe. Our ASCIP comprehensive safety assessments also coincidentally take place next week. ASCIP partners with a company that specializes in campus safety, particularly in relation to armed intruders. And they provide a comprehensive assessment and recommendations for the staff in order to reevaluate or evaluate their comprehensive safety plan. Hermosa Beach City School District and Hermosa Beach City and the school district are going to participate in a tabletop exercise. This was a recommendation by Chief LeBaron a while ago, but it's coming to fruition. We're excited. And he is contracting with a specialist. A tabletop exercise is where all stakeholders involved, so school district members, as well as members of the city and emergency response, join together in a room and do a demo of what would be the plan in the event that the event occurred and what is our level of preparation. And it really just tries to outline all possible eventualities so that your plans are more formidable in the event of a crisis. The reason the date's not scheduled for that is because the trainer that we want to work with is highly booked, but like we're hoping that it's going to occur during the fall. It's a pretty intensive exercise. So more information to come on that. And then our next safety update to the board, and hopefully many of these features will be completed by then, and with more recommendations will be in October. And we will continue to keep at it during the course of the year and engage with the community to make sure we're keeping our campuses safe. All right. Oh, yes. What can I do to help? This is a team effort. And I do feel, and I thank community members present who have shared their own observations, recommendations. Many of them are great and just good grassroots feedback. I encourage you to continue to do so. I mean, like it really, it's not a cliche, it takes a village. So things that you notice, things that you see, I think that the best route to providing that feedback is to the school principal and or the superintendent. And do so when observed, you know, like, or when the idea comes to your mind. No idea is a bad one. I mean, like we're open to them. I encourage people to volunteer for a committee or council. With that said, it does take work and involvement, and that's important. So I encourage, folks to get involved on these ongoing works. Like the reason we're here where we're at with our school programs is because of the work and the input of the committees and councils. So I encourage you to sign up for one of those. Volunteer for HVPT or HBF. That really, it makes just such a substantial difference. This year, the district, we're gonna try. It's actually the district's done it in the past. But office greeters, we're looking for parents that are open to working in the front office. There's a lot of traffic in the morning. There's a lot of through people, and really just having an extra set of eyes, an extra body there. I mean, particularly like in the morning and the afternoon when there's so many people coming to and from campus. So will our principals be working on putting out that call? I mean it when I say it, donating to HBF. This is not just a play for money. It makes a difference. You know, like so these programs that we have are a product of people in our community who give. And then coming soon, October 2022, volunteer to be a watchdog. Dads, you won't regret it. It's going to be really, really fun, and it's a great day. And you get out there for the whole day. You're going to be a hero on campus. I'm telling you. If you want to learn more about Run, Hide, Distract, we had a parent information night, but this training is available. It's a great training. It was reviewed with our students and staff last year in conjunction with HBPD, but it's available in our board documents. And if you can't find it that way, then just shoot me an email, jjohnson@hbcsd.org. We almost got tripped up there. And I'm happy to send it your way and talk through any questions. At this time, I'll take the board's questions. Thank you.
Jason and team, thank you for making this such a comprehensive presentation. And again, thank you to parents and community members who provide some feedback at the beginning of the summer as well. I'd like to open it up to the board right now for comments and questions. Jen, you want to kick us off?
Thank you. This is, I mean, I've been through a lot of these meetings, and this is the most comprehensive one we've had to date. And I just want to also thank the community members. I know you gave us a lot of feedback, and I feel like we tried to kind of sandwich it with everything we've been doing. I just wanted to go back and ask a couple. I've like just a list of questions, but I'll stop if I get too far. Jason, when you say what can people do now, people don't have to also be a part of a committee, right? They can just show up to a school site council meeting. It's an open meeting.
School site councils are open meetings. I'd encourage people to volunteer though, if they want to.
100%. I'm just saying if there's people out there that are just like, I just am curious what's happening at a school site meeting and I don't want to sit on there, but I can show up to one.
As like an observer.
You can
Yes.
come. It's an open meeting. I just want the public to know that and people in the audience to know that. Is there a plan to share this document with students and parents and staff?
We can make this document publicly available and maybe a welcome back message.
Yeah, I just think it's so great, so comprehensive. And I think at a back to school night, it'd be fantastic just to be able to be like, hey, we've got all this stuff going on. And if you didn't know, you should be aware, because, you know, when you come in as a kindergarten parent or a first grade parent, you may not need all this stuff, but it's nice to know it's going to be available at some point.
Yeah.
when you talk about office greeters, one thing I love about Watchdogs, and I've been at the school my children went to had Watchdogs, and it's a fantastic program, but they identified through a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if we could have some sort of thought to, if there's an office greeter, that person has some sort of recognizable clothing that they get to wear. So it's like, it's not just a badge. So you kind of understand you're an office greeter.
We put the volunteers at lunch in some pretty sweet neon wear. So
There might be something. I just think it might be like a good time for dolphins, time for a dolphin t-shirt.
There we go.
You
How
know,
about that logo?
that's on my list. For those of you who don't know what ASKIP is, do you want to just give everybody like a quick, like one sentence of what ASKIP is?
It's a, man, that's a great question. It's a joint power authority that deals with everything from insurance to safety procedures to, workman's comp. I mean, it really is like a catch-all joint power authority for school districts that I serve as a executive board member. Like it serves the greater part of California, but yeah, its services are so vast. It's like, why ASKIP? ASKIP is actually just provides this as a service as part of our membership.
Right. We pay into a membership to ASKIP. Yeah. So I just want people to know that it's like, then we can ask for things. And one of them is the safety.
Yeah. I'm like butchering the explanation, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Juvenile Diversion Project. What's the age group that deals with?
That is at Hermosa Valley. And so that ranged to, this year it'll be from 5th to 8th grade.
Okay. I think it might be a sensitive subject. And I'm just wondering if that age group is if it's too low. I mean, I think 5th grade's a little low for a juvenile diversion project, but
I'll check and see if they've worked with a 5th grader. But I would say that the way that it is done in a counseling format. And also it requires parent agreement.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just didn't.
Yeah, of course.
I hadn't heard of that before, so it's a little like, whoa, it's one step before you're going somewhere else. So it just feels a little like we might want to explain that one a little more to people.
Yeah, it's not done under the threat of law. I mean, like it really is considered a counseling intervention. You mean like for a student that may be identified to running the risk of being caught in the juvenile justice system.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have 3 more. They're short answered. Is there a way that potentially we could think about having like a email specific to safety concerns? So parents could, or if anybody, if they saw a safety concern and they didn't want to like it, so it just went to one space versus like maybe getting caught in an email signature. Hermosa Beach safety, I'm making that up, but
we will take that under consideration. At this time, I strongly recommend that any safety concern should be immediately communicated to the principal or the superintendent.
Okay. Is there any chance we might think of adding more run, hide, distract drills, since we know that those are very valuable, and we do fire drills every month, I think, and we do run, hide, distract, one time a year?
This year, last year we did one because of the training leading up to it. This year we'll perform 2, one earlier in the year and a refresher in the spring.
Great. Thank you. Digital citizenship. And I know that goes hand in hand with mental health and for mental health with students. And I'm just going to keep reminding everyone that I think it's really a valuable thing that we start figuring out curriculum or ways to push more information out about digital citizenship and literacy to students and families. And I know I just didn't see that in the safety thing, but I think it kind of goes hand in hand with wellness, mental health, and safety. So I'd love to see kind of what our next steps are and plans are for that at some point.
Thank you.
That's it.
Next up. I can go any direction. Steve?
Jason and team, I just echo, thank you so much. I mean, also to our amazing partners all around us, HBPD, neighboring districts, etc. I think the district has shown a history of even nationally being recognized for some of its safety programs, which is amazing, but obviously showing here that everything that can be done is being done is essential. So thank you for that. I'm curious on HBPD. I think in know, they're always there, they're always present. I say sort of in the community, so to speak, but school liaison officers, or now that we've got 3 sites, particularly I felt just as a parent, pick up and drop off last year, I've seen certain officers more familiarly around. And I think rather than the past where you've seen police on waiting outside or whatever else, what's going on. It's almost now it's just, no, they're just part of the community and they're welcoming kids onto campus and whatever else. Do we have any formal structure for a school liaison officer and with different sites? Is that something under consideration?
It's not site-based, but we have our school liaison officers, which are officers, Landon, Phillips, and Dorothy. And we work closely with them for the walkthroughs that you see and such. Each site principal has a relationship with our site patrol, and Chief LeBaron and I, once we'd gotten back on campus and COVID had relaxed, have an understanding and continue to develop. Having PD persistently passing through around on campus as a presence that is not necessarily just responding to an emergency. But
that's correct.
I think that particularly in the mornings or in high traffic times, human people passing to and from school is our focus point right now.
Awesome.
And PD has been great about working with us on that.
That's great. And focus on PD, but also our first responders, our fire departments and whatever else, they're also a part of the safety training, take it in terms of visiting campuses and all the same.
Yeah, our fire department does assessments of the campuses each year. We are under the county in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So the relationships is different as opposed to city municipal in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But they will be invited to the tabletop exercise, an emergency response.
Right. I just have something actually flipping it the other way around in terms of catastrophic events and not wishing anything, obviously, but we do live in a part of the world where earthquakes could be considerable. And that tabletop exercise of also the community knowing that we've got new structures that are safe spaces should a catastrophic event happen, in our town, in our community, just for the community to know that they've got access that should worst case scenario happen and things like that. I don't know if that's other scenarios like that earthquake wise we're talking about.
Yeah, I would probably have to go deeper down the road of specifics in regard to earthquakes. We do have a comprehensive plan for earthquake procedures. Yes, our campuses are retrofitted and very safe. Building B at Hermosa View is probably if it goes down, that's where you want to be. A lot of concrete. So I would say as far as we have alternative evacuation locations,
Mm-hmm.
but in most circumstances, the safest place will be on our campuses, and we have staging locations on each campus, which are effectively our fields.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple. Did you have any follow-ups? No. Okay. Thank you again. Okay, so we've talked about engagement. I appreciate the different slides up here, and I echo Jen's point on making sure we have these resources available. Also just want to give kudos to Jen because I think the Wellness Committee and digital or equity inclusion were championed by you. So thank you for all your attention to that. When we talk about safety, it's a multi-layered process, right? So we have the physical, we have social emotional wellness. There's programs and professional development and trainings that we do for staff. One of the things I think that's missing when we talk about safety is the cyber aspect of it, right? So that kind of hits on Jen's point around digital citizenship, but also then the safety of privacy from hacking and whatnot. So thinking about how we do technology and cyber infrastructure under safety. And then all of this is making me think when we get to this multi-layered piece of, given the recommendations that we get from ASCIP, given recommendations from National Council on School Safety, best practices from the chief's work, nationally and locally, does ASCIP help us build a master plan for one, checking boxes of do we have all the different pieces identified of where we are strong, where we might be vulnerable? I don't think an attack or a bad incident is necessarily the mark of whether or not we're doing it right or not. I think we could still be doing things wrong and we just don't know, even if we don't have an incident of harm on campus. It's I guess, what is our checklist to make sure that we're doing all the right things? Like, what does that look like? Is that a master plan process? And then along with that, to your point on funding, how do we align dollars to a master plan to make sure that we have the infrastructure, physical, and beyond?
Yeah, for clarity, I think when we say master plan, I want to separate that from the comprehensive safety plan.
Mhm.
I believe when you say master plan, you're talking about a master plan of what are next steps and or the road to paying for those next steps.
Mhm.
So ASCIP does not provide a structure for how you will achieve the recommendations that they make. They are there to simply, and they're, an agency that does this, simply identifies, areas on campus that, they make recommendations that, may or may not keep your campus safer. And they base that off of their own research, from National School Safety about, what are various areas, basic level would be offense.
Right.
They do review your comprehensive safety plans. They review your run, hide, distract protocols. They review, threat assessment procedures. It is comprehensive in that nature, but they are making recommendations. The board and the district's ability to be able to implement or take those to action is dependent on your comprehensive action plan and your ability to take action from a fiscal standpoint as well. For example, hypothetically, if we were back in 2010 and ASCIP made recommendations about, creating a perimeter fence around Hermosa Valley, they're not going to tell you how to go about doing it. It's incumbent upon the district to, as they did, pass a bond where you could do a major overhaul of your facilities and infrastructure to achieve the recommendations that they're making.
Mhm.
So I would say it will be, while the reports and recommendations are comprehensive, at the same time too, it's incumbent upon the district and to how they proceed forward after that.
Mhm. So let me take a step backwards to go back to this point here. So the last time we did a facilities master plan, it included an analysis of security for the district. That was back in 14, 15 when we did that process, and that helped lay out the needs for the Measure S bond in terms of what was going to be in the bond. We work annually with our partners, including ASCIP and fire and police, to do these annual safety audits and to make sure we have processes in place. To your point, we approve plans in March every year, right? Like, this is something that we have as an ongoing practice. It just feels, I think, unusual that we're doing it right now because we're leading from April until February of next year in doing a comprehensive look for 2023, right? We have 3 school sites opening, so we're taking extra attention at this point in time to make sure that we are in line with 3 campuses and 3 different processes now in place. So I'm just providing context on that. Like, August is not normally when we have this conversation of doing this massive safety overhaul.
Yes and no. A lot of the procedures that you see here in place, we had already planned to do so. I would say the difference is that public attention has been called to our safety procedures.
Mhm.
So I would say that we are just publicly demonstrating what we would be doing anyway. I will say that the added attention and some of the lessons learned from Uvalde has caused a greater impetus in order to proceed. And I think that's from the board, from the community. And so I would say there's just a greater sense of urgency, but that sense of urgency really should always be there.
Fair enough. Then getting back to this title of a master plan idea, like, will it be then in March when we come back and we sign off on our school safety plan and we're seeing things that might be missing because of resources, that we'll have this conversation then? Like, when do you anticipate us doing a checklist of things that the district needs to be funded for us to be, at ASCIP's recommended level of safety? How does that conversation play out?
Well, right now, I don't know what ASCIP is going to recommend because the comprehensive assessment hasn't taken place. So it'd be very difficult for me to provide a timeline depending on those recommendations. If the recommendations are small, then I'd be pretty quick. If the recommendations are comprehensive infrastructure changes, then I may be coming back to the board because, as you mentioned, in 2014, a contractor company was hired, GKK, to do a massive facilities evaluation that took, from reading the report, it must have taken months and months to do. So I would say it's very difficult for me to give that assessment at this time. From a procedural standpoint, I think that shouldn't take any time at all. And I would say too that as in any year, we wouldn't wait till March in order to make protocol and procedure changes that were necessary. For example, like the basic things like radio procedures. That was something that was observed when we came back to campuses and we implemented right away. So I think it just really depends on what the recommendations are, which, by October, I should have a much more detailed idea of what those recommendations will be for all 3 campuses.
And then last question, we're only as good, our policies are only as good as the people who carry them out. What does the training look like for our teachers? And we had mentioned that if community members, parents, folks see that a safety process isn't happening, they should let the principal know immediately or let the superintendent know immediately. But what does the training look like for staff on campus in terms of being aware of all the safety functions?
Training is held through professional development before the school year starts, as well as during the course of the school year. This year we have, last year we had our trauma response procedures. We had our run, hide, distract protocol that was trained. This year we're doing stop the bleed training, as well as all those other trainings again, and we build them into our school year. Time is hard because we only get so much allotted time to provide professional development, also because of constraints as a school district. So we build it in throughout the school year. We're going to present in September, as we do each year, our annual plan for professional development, and the board will see that training embedded into our professional development plan.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions from the board? No. Jason, thank you again for all your time and attention to this.
Thank you, board.
Okay, moving on to R-07-2223, the 45-day budget revise. Ms. Montalvo. Sorry, public comment is closed, but please feel free to send us an email. Oops.
Hi, everyone. How are you? I'm here to provide the 45-day revise update since the governor's budget was adopted at the end of June. Looking at our multi-year projections, we have a net surplus prior to collective bargaining. The district is going to continue to provide incremental growth in alignment with enrollment as a strategy for moving programs forward. And also with our one-time funding mitigation learning loss funding that we will be receiving, we're going to have a strategic spending plan put in place as well to spend those funds over multiple years. We have until 27-28 to spend the funds that we are receiving. Next slide. Here's a last look at our guiding principles at what they were. The next presentation will have our new board goals included. Next slide. Take a look at enrollment. Currently at last Friday, our enrollment was 1297 projected. As you know, enrollment continues to be critical as we move forward to get additional funding for the district. Permits are currently at 75 students. Our permit program is working. We are still creatively putting programs in place to draw students and developing outreach to bring additional students as well. Next slide. These are some of the assumptions that the governor has in his budget, which was included in the original adopted budget was the COLA of 6.56. He did add an additional 6.28% to be added to the base grant. So that's ongoing funding for programs. So that's a good extra amount. We will be funded on our rolling 3-year rolling average this year. And our rolling ADA for 22-23 is 1264. That has not changed since budget. That's the same. Next slide. Want to draw your attention to on this slide, the one-time learning loss mitigation monies of about $977,000. This is still a projected number. CDE moves really slow. They don't have the funding profile available to districts yet. So this is still estimated. Next slide. When you look at adding the additional 6.28 in, the COLA, the TK add-on, our revenue is up to 17.7. That's an additional like $1.7 million in funding. Next, I'd like you to look at the net surplus of 841. A large amount of that money is due to the one-time funding money we're going to put a strategic plan in place to spend year over year. The plan is not to spend it all this year. We have until 27-28 to spend that money. And we'll be sharing a plan as we move forward. Next slide. Our REU, Reserve for Economic Uncertainty, is staying pretty steady in the mid 30s. It does jump up again in 23-24 to 37%. And again, that is due to the one-time monies that we are getting that we're going to be carrying on the books for several years. The statewide, just as a reminder, the statewide average for reserve for elementary schools is 26.1. Next slide. And the FTE teacher increases at this point, based on our current enrollment, we are not increasing FTE. Next slide. Any questions?
Paula, thank you so much for this. And I know the board got a chance to dig into all this information a few weeks ago at our summer board workshop. So thank you again for making this public. Questions from the board? Anyone?
It was public. It was a public meeting when we had that
Did I say
meeting.
closed?
No.
Oh,
When,
okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
just, yeah.
Quinn?
Paula, thanks for the presentation. Just, commendations on providing a good, clear information, a couple of slides before just talking about the revenues, expenditures, and reserves and where that sets us up. I think that's nice. It's good. It's helpful to have all that nicely, clearly laid out.
Thank you.
I do have a question. At what point will we know if FTE needs to be increased, and what grades are we looking at that for?
So we're monitoring that weekly on a weekly basis, and we have our next check-in on Friday.
For FTE, I know enrollment is going up daily. And so at what point will we have to monitor an FTE increase?
We're right on the cusp at TK. So we monitor it on a weekly basis, and Paul and I do the bean counts every Friday. It's kind of fun. But TK is right where we're right on the verge, and it has to do with the class size limits. And if we do have to include add a TK class, it's actually a 2 FTE add, a TK teacher plus the instructional aid in compliance with the new legislation. So that is a pretty strong possibility at this point in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
What's the betting pool say on the final attendance on September 6th?
And
Closest to the pin.
well, Paula always aims down. I'm a little more optimistic.
Hey, but who got it right?
That's not a compliment. We aspire here at Hermosa. Yeah, I would pretty much, I would say that something would have to really change with our trajectory right now for us to not be on target for a TK teacher. It is the hard part, Quentin, is that at the start of the year, you have, as much as we call, as much as we've done all these processes, you have people who don't show. And we've even seen that this week. We had a -3 for people who just recently moved and gave us a heads up, which is great. They're telling us that they're going. So, 50-50 is such a cop out. I would say it's a 75% likelihood that we'll be adding a TK teacher before the beginning of the year. I'd be betting that we would.
Any other questions from the board? No? Question?
The question so much as I know you regularly provide us those updates in our sort of weekly package. So thank you for that. And thinking ahead to enrollment for next year, maybe not to get into, but there's also, are we able to put out a tentative wait list or interest form around preschool? Because knowing how hot property preschool is and just letting the community know this view is open, it's great, we're excited. Like it just as much, but I know several families on my street who are sort of looking for preschool options, and to know that they have, not to commit to it, but I don't know if there's a way of sort of saying interest form or something like that, because families are more likely if they can also get their body of kids in. I mean, there's hundreds of people waiting list for Manhattan preschool, but I don't know what your thought is on that.
That is a great piece of feedback, and we will definitely consider an interest form. There's a few hurdles that we have to jump with the CDE with licensing that we just want to make sure that we get through. We're very close.
We'll get that school built first, but I was just, you know,
Yeah,
like,
no,
I mean, my point is
I
yeah.
think a suggestion of collecting interest is
It's interesting. I mean,
great.
it's
Yeah.
sort of non-committal from the district, but it's just would also given us an indicator for then the funnel for future years and staffing and where else. I also love the fact that, you know, we would collect data, you know, our focus on personalized learning can start at that younger age as well. I think it leans into our Thrive. We'd have to change our tagline because you can't be Thrive K through anyway. Thrive preschool. Okay, I won't go. That's all. Thanks.
Were there any other questions for Paula? Okay, closing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we are moving to consent. Do we have a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Thank you, Quentin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent is
Aye.
approved. Moving on to board action, AS-09-2223, the approval of the governance calendar. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, board, for your feedback over the last few weeks on the governance calendar. As attached in your board items on your board update. I think we got it down and we submit to the board for approval. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Comments or questions on the governance calendar? Thumbs up. Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephen. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Carries. S-10-2223, update to board policies and administrative regulations. Dr. Johnson.
This is continuing just to update our board policies in alignment with our programs, including independent study and response to intervention, as well as our TK program. These are all good, healthy board policy updates. The education world and programs are changing fast, so we are making sure we have the policies that are in alignment with them as recommended by CSBA. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions off of the board policies proposal? Great. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving to personnel, P-07-2223, the initial proposal from the Hermosa Beach Educators Association.
Thank you, Collective Bargaining Partners, HBA, for your initial submitted proposal and recommended to the board for approval.
Oh, sorry.
I got a so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving to P-08-2223, the revised salary schedule for certificate administration.
We conducted a salary analysis across school districts, local and comparable, of our certificated administrator salary in comparison. What we found was that we would benefit in our ability to retain our administrators for longevity by adding a step 7. Some of our neighboring districts have also taken this step to add a step 7 to increase the longevity of our administrators and to better compete with our neighboring school districts to make sure we retain the best talent, and recommended to the board for approval.
Thank you so much. Are there comments or questions from the board? Yes, Jen?
I just wanted, Jason, can you talk a little bit, just so the public knows, the the crisis America is going to be in with the teacher crisis and the administrative crisis. So that's, there is a reason for this.
Yes, so nationally, there is a massive teacher shortage as well as administrators. It really just ticks on up. This is a product due to less people getting into the education pipeline, and those effects will continue to be felt over the course of the next 5 years. This is not the first time this has happened, but it will continue. There's also been an extremely high turnover in administrators. Most, if not actually all of our local school districts here, just even in the South Bay, have experienced up to and higher of a 50% turnover in their administration in just the last 2 years. Holding and retaining high quality talent is difficult because there is a huge teacher and administrator shortage. Thank you.
Good. Excellent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Doug. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Stephen on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. P-09-2223, the revised confidential management salary schedule for a communication coordinator.
Thank you. It's recommended to the board to approve a change in job title and salary schedule from communication specialist to communication coordinator. This position is currently filled by Eileen Levin, who's the first year of her position last year, and the district taking a step in increasing its communication efforts, particularly focus on our enrollment efforts. Enrollment drives dollars. Since Eileen has been on board, we now at this point are at an 8% increase in enrollment over the last 2 years and counting. As the board knows, we well exceeded our analytics just this year. Our ceiling was supposed to be 1253, and we probably this week will cross over the 1300 mark in enrollment. Eileen's efforts as demonstrated on Instagram, as well as our other social media platforms, our website, the alumni network, is a great business decision for the school district. The dollars gained from her efforts to recruitment and enrollment for our students really is essential to the financial health of the district. With that said, her duties and her job have greatly expanded, and it is a much larger role than we earlier anticipated. So it is recommended to the board that her position title also evolve in alignment with her extended duties. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Like to make motion for approval?
There's no comments? Okay.
I just want to appreciate her. She does a great job.
I'd second that. She had a video
Third.
script ready for me today to talk about the welcome schools. So always a pleasure to work with. Please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh, wow. Quentin, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
A logo was a writer on that as well too. So
Oh.
yeah, thank you, board. We appreciate it.
Not funny. Okay, P-10-2223, the revised classified salary schedule for the LVN position.
It is recommended to the board to approve the LVN position. We have had a substantial increase in students with various special needs, but one of which is an increase of students with medically fragile needs into our school district. This is in alignment with special education. We serve a very diverse population of students with a variety of needs. And what we've identified is that we need more specialized support in order to maintain the health of these students, which at times is critical. Someone with a licensed training is essential to be able to maintain their health, and is recommended to the board in alignment under the 3-site plan that we have the staff necessary in order to make sure to keep our students safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Quentin. Is there a second?
Second.
Doug, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. P-11-2223, the certificated employment transaction for the school principal.
This is the best moment for a superintendent. It is a recommendation to the board to approve a principal's hiring. Miss Hillary Overbeck, as you saw earlier today, we are very proud of. She is homegrown. And while we are sad to lose Lisa Tanita, we are really excited about the potential of her leadership. She has been an absolute stellar with her work as a teacher and as an AP, and I proudly recommend Principal Overbeck to the board for approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Questions?
I do have a question. I'm so proud of her and very excited for Miss Overbeck. I did just want to ask Jason, what is the plan for principals? Because as you are, when you've been a principal and you go into this as a new job, it's a lot. And so as a new principal, what's our plan for helping her and supporting her?
Well, fortunately, our district and the Gluckster and I have been working with new principals recently. And so we developed a pretty intensive plan to onboard our principals last year, which we think was successful in ensuring that they navigated what was a very challenging school year successfully. So that's like our framework, and a lot of our plans that we developed last year, we're putting to work this year again. In addition, we, thanks to the board, approved a coach for our principals, Lisa Veal with Redondo Beach Unified School District. She's the executive director of educational services. She has a long history of developing, I believe she's up to 8 principals and 1 superintendent, developing leaders, and they have their first meeting on Monday night. So we're excited about that. And then we are working with Miss Gluck is going to be working 1 day a week at Hermosa View campus. And of course, we share Hermosa Vista campus. So she is providing direct mentorship to Hillary Overbeck. She was actually her administrative credentialing mentor back when Hillary first earned her credential.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
You want to make a motion?
I am so moved. Sorry, I'll do the whole thing. I move to approve P-11-22-23 certificated employment transaction, the employment contract for school principal.
Second.
Thank you, Quentin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving to P-22-23, the second amendment to the superintendent's employment contract. I think this one's for me, Dr. Johnson. So recommendation of the board president to the board that the board approve the second amendment to the superintendent's employment contract for Dr. Jason Johnson effective July 1st, 2022. Some background on this: the August 11th, 2021 meeting, the board approved the first amendment to the superintendent contract, reevaluating, taking into account the work created by COVID-19. The second amendment to the contract is recommended for approval. The high level details of that contract include with pleasure an additional year of service, which brings the 4-year term to 2026. We are so pleased to be able to continue offering you additional years of service to the district and under your leadership. A 3.5% on schedule base increase, a 3% off schedule increase, and another year of executive coaching. So any comments or questions from the board? Being
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank yous all around. Seeing no questions, may I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Oh, that Jen had that. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Moving to board member roundtable. I have something. Stephen, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to let it be known in this meeting. I've sort of publicly announced it also that I won't be running for re-election in the November upcoming election. Very proud of the work that the team has done, and I've gained so much of it, so much from serving this community, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I won't be going away, that's for sure. I'm thrilled and just want to say thank you to Jen and Maggie, who have already filed for their candidacy to run for re-election. We also have a community member who is well known in the community, Kathy Barrows, who is a retired Hermosa Beach school teacher. So she absolutely knows excellence in our community. She was actually happened to be a founding member of the Ed Foundation. She's been in the community for many years. Her 3 daughters went to our schools, as well as serving as a PTO president. So incredibly excited about her candidacy, and the link is also available for anyone else considering. Do reach out, questions, thoughts. And Dr. Johnson and the team were all available for anyone else thinking of serving. So with that, I'll just say thank you. And yeah, exciting times ahead.
You the long goodbye. Any other board member roundtable? Okay, well then, on the heels of Stephen's announcement, I wanted to see if there was board interest to join a small working committee to create a board member induction process. We have talked about this before, and we have never pulled anything together. So you guys know how I like a good policy. We're going to put together a series of, we're going to have binders of policies of things that new board members, like just like Mitt Romney's. I didn't think it was appropriate to say. So Stephen, would you want to join me in that and thinking about how we bring on new board members in terms of the protocols and then?
Yeah, I mean, I would, and certainly in some ways, maybe it depends who that person is, because it depends, or the team, but our compact is pretty thorough. I mean, for anyone who's listening, it's a relatively short compendium of our sort of everything of how we as a board look to act, as well as our relationship with the superintendent. And it's good guardrails, it's informational, it's great. It's not quite a policies, but it's a set of how we go about governing and seek for excellence. That in of itself also has links to our key documents. So there's definitely all of that. And then I think beyond that, probably you're right, we can put together a list of other nice to do's, need to do's, etc. One thing I was going to mention was CSBA. In years past, attendance at that. Again, it sort of depends on who, there is a new board member session for anyone, for the new board member. I found it useful. I think as much as anything, it's also just good there being with other community and other board members. And in some ways, it's almost an appreciation of how unique our school district is. I know that's incredibly sort of sycophantic to say, oh, we're so unique, but compared to so many of the other school districts, I know we have also been leaning and sort of forging great relationships with small school district associations. So I don't know quite what the emphasis should be. I know some of us have.
We don't have to do it now.
No, I know, but I was going to the reason I get into that about CSBAs is early registration is this week, which there's that side of it. So who's signed up? Who's going? No, I did. This is not me fudging. No, I'm just saying I can keep going. We've got plenty of time. So if you want.
Okay, that's
But
my
yes,
board member. Okay, so Stephen's in, great.
But no, I guess what I was going to is CSBA, and who, I think it's good that we continue to go. Maybe not, but it won't be me.
Any other board member on the table? Okay, well, barring a special session, we won't be back in chambers again until after the start of school. So everyone getting ready for a wonderful welcoming back to school session. We're sending lots of good thoughts to teachers and parents and students, and we can't wait to see everybody on campuses. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourned. Motion carried.